gentlemen. This is Devious Mind here again. From Time Lapse. Time Wave would be the other alliance that I would co-lead there. I'd lead, Time Lapse. Just want to throw that out there for people looking for the ability to apply. Before we get into this video, I just want to give a little rundown of what we're going to do today. First, we're going to start off with this video in particular. That's going to lead into the breakdown of my current deck lineup. I was requested, hey, could you do a ruin rundown, with these new ancient ruins that came by, and can you add in that different aspect of, what you use now, how you use it, so on and so forth, right? Then after that, I'm going to start my series on how to get through Siege Hell Mode. Alright, not many people are making videos on it to what I've been relayed. I had some personal stuff going down, so sorry for the hold up there, but I just want to get that for you, and I'm going to knock out both videos here today. Alright, so let's get started. My formation, I have Thrain, Lucian, Kernodon, Perna, Kamoon, Rakan, Beretta, and Konami, right? Again, Giant Warrior, Synergy, and Damage Conversion. So pretty much this lineup, I have Kamoon is, his slot there is to allow me to get a potential 2 revivals out of Konami that are then, on death, Konami is going to do a cleanse. Later in the fight, I may encounter losing Lucian. He may get revived. I may encounter losing Rakan, and he gets revived, and it's not too exciting when you experience Rakan coming back from the death, because evidently if he gets to your backline, a lot of people are going to have struggles with him as he's an imminent threat. Again, after that, I use Kernodon on my backline to protect my DPSs, so if someone goes for a stun, they try to do any dots, whatever is getting applied to them from a spell, it's going to get mitigated. If it's applied from a particular monster on their deck, if it's like Beretta dropping dots, all those dots from all of those allies in that backline are going to then get transferred over to that that dot applier, right? Same with Perna. If there's a weakness aspect, you're weakening with Huadam or something, it's going to prevent Huadam from applying the attack break, and it's going to allow me to carry forth full damage output. Again, you can use Giant Warrior for that, but going into this, Perna, I know people, they say they don't really need the accuracy to assist with the fixed chance, but we do need the accuracy for is after the fixed proc rate, you need the accuracy so that you can then apply the debuff, because again, that's where the accuracy comes into play, is allowing you to apply it. There's a proc rate. Some mons will do it where the proc rate is based off of their accuracy, but a fixed rate is going to be the proc rate is based off of a fixed, proc rate, right? That's doesn't involve accuracy, but to apply, that's gonna need the accuracy. Okay. Same thing with Kernodon. For him to transfer the debuffs back over, you're going to need Kernodon to have some accuracy, because there's going to be a fixed proc rate. Cool, it's going to go for the transfer, but for those to land, that's where that comes into play. Kernodon, he has a higher chance to proc right for transferring over than if you were to do Perna or something, But the thing is, where it does come to play highly for his accuracy is for the strip into dot application, the conversion from buffs to dots. If he's going to go for the defense down, he's going to need that. Again, often I will use Kernodon to apply the defense down and then apply Thrain when there's one last remaining enemy, and I guarantee if you have a decent penetration, I tell you, penetration substats, you're going to go for at least 20 to 30 at most. 35 could work, whatever, but you don't want the highest defense penetration, as you're going to, drop some very important stats. If it's a resistance, if it's attack, if it's crit rate, crit damage, if it's maybe your health or something. You want to make sure that you have the sustain, that you have the damage, in such a way that you aren't so reliant on penetration to put your damage forth. Like, you still want to have the penetration so you don't have to do defense down typically, but if you do have a defense down with the penetration, you're going to be doing like your fullest damage output that you possibly could with that set. Alright, so again, I recommend 20-30% penetration on those DPS units that don't come with a defense ignore. Okay, defense ignores would be your Copper, Callie, Lucian. Again, Camilla can, but she's situational. She needs to have that invincibility. They can't strip it. They can't, push it back with a strip. They can't steal it. All right. So now we're gonna get into this. We're just gonna do a quick battle here, kind of show you how I run it down. Again, Giant Warrior can be paired with Synergy, and Synergy is gonna give you that attack buff, right? It's gonna do the heal block to the enemies, and there's also gonna be that factor of if they have more mons than you, they're gonna get weakened and they're gonna get another debuff applied there. As you see, they slept themselves. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just waiting for them to hit my Lucian. Going straight for the damage down. Okay, I went for the reuse from Konami. Evidently, failed my reapplication there. Alright, so what I'm going to wait for here is I want them to take out one of my units. I just want them to take out one of my units. So this way, I can apply weaken and unrecoverable, alright? And correction earlier, there's nothing more than weaken and unrecoverable. I said that earlier. Thinking of a totally different spell there. I was thinking of the weakness found spell. I bet on that, guys. Alright, as you saw that spell right there, I had more units than him. He was really aiming to go and drop that that synergy spell and go for weaken. He was going for that that heal block there, but it prevented it from even landing in the first place there. They're going to go for Hathor here. Got the stun. Again, as you see, there's a high stun rate for me without the dots. I'm not as reliant on the dots. That was a misplay on my end, because there is the 75% rule here. Alright. So now all I gotta do is just wait for him to go for the move here. And that's a game. Alright, so pretty much a 75% roll with Artemile. Sometimes this new skin is a little faster, but pretty much what it would do is it would allow you to, if you're doing invincibility, damage conversion, you can apply the spell right then so that it'll make it to where he strips, but then it applies right when he's going to pull back, and that's where you actually avoid the damage being inflicted to you altogether. Again, if you're doing damage conversion, you're going to heal all that damage, right? If you're doing divine protection, that would allow you to then just no damage, right? So now what we're going to do here is we're going to get into my builds. Why did you see Thrain dropping the stun effect, right? That's a future deck in progress. You guys will see that sometime later. Just trying to level up certain units, get certain units built. Once I get them leveled, then I'll start working on the runes. Alright, so we're going to start off with Rakan here. Okay? Rakan, I'm going for, the attack, the defense, the health. Trying to, make him a well-sustainable unit. But a lot of it, too, again, you're going to find other Rakan users, they're going to focus purely on their damage. and they're going to have, their defensive properties, so on and so forth. For me, I wanted my resistance up so that he could avoid the heal blocks, because it's a pain to take out Rakan when you can't heal block him. Evidently, that's 58.8% resistance. He has a very high chance to resist your debuffs. I've had him even resist that of Alicia on Greenstone. And Alicia, she's got the elemental advantage being the water unit. She's got, on Greenstone, she has the increased accuracy. So, if I'm dodging that, there's probably a lot of debuffs that Rakan is going to dodge there for me, and it's going to be very helpful. But again, I would strongly repeat, I can't press this enough, get that, I'd really strongly recommend getting crit damage received down on those bruisers like Rakan and so on and so forth, down to at least 50%. You don't want to exceed that. That's not for a bruiser at that point. If you're exceeding it, you're doing a support unit. Alright, that's going to be like a Wusa. That's going to be, if you're going to be applying like Kodamea, maybe, or Renee, something like that, where it's not necessarily a bruiser. It's just there to, sustain and give certain buffs and so on and so forth, or cleanse, stuff like that. That's not really a unit that's supposed to be considered a bruiser. Maybe if you had like a reflect factor, if it was Eleanor, that would be a bruiser. Alright? But not the type that's, applying like a Rakan. There's going to be other properties that you'd be sacrificing if you're going too high on that. Because for him, he's a damage dealer. Despite him being as tanky as he is, I've seen Rakan users just wipe a whole line in a single Rakan use, on Goldstone. I don't have the stats for that, because evidently I'm going for a sustain Rakan. Again, if you're going for the, sustain variant, where he's not going to get one shot by anything unless he's down to a certain health pool, that's going to be a purple stone. Okay, that's the stone that you're going to want. If you're going for, one that's just going to be like heavy on damage, you got the crit damage, you got the penetration, you got really high health and attack and stuff like that, that's going to be when you're going to drop the Goldstone in. Again, Greenstone is more for early game, mid game, maybe. It's not going to be late game use as much, unless you really need that cost reduction. You don't want to rely on taking damage before you deal it. This is just something if you're turn cycling. Alright? Green is going to be for the turn cycling. If you're going for just the most damage you can get, knowing that you're trying to build that sustain, that's going to be purple stone. Gold stone's going to be for, hey, I want to take damage and I want to deal damage. Alright? But the thing is, those aren't the people that are typically building the super high crit damage down. Alright? Later on, they're going to be doing that. When people have the ruin quality in matchup, that's a very high ruin quality that I would not recommend sacrificing, putting all that into one unit. Unless you got a thing where you're sacrificing units, because I see a lot of people doing the thing where they sacrifice a lot of their units and they go in for the, turn cycling with, only 5 cards in their hand, whatever, like only 5 cards on the field. That would make more sense for it. But if you're doing a full, setup there where you're using all your cards, because at least for me, I don't do the whole thing where we drop cards so we can, keep that damage and cycling going. Like, I will use all my cards. Like, I try to make decks that use all 8 units. That all 8 units are synergizing well. Again, now we have defense penetration. Again, like earlier I said, you're going to want that 20 to 30% penetration at most. 20% penetration will work. That will 100% work for you. Again, 30% will be the ideal for, like, late game use, Evidently, beyond that, as we cycle into other seasons, that's when you may see the penetration going up. But I'm saying for current seasons, 20-30% penetration is going to suffice. Alright, you're going to be able to knock out most of the substats that a lot of people have by doing so. Alright. Then going into Perna. No, wait. We're going to go back to Rakan here. I just want to say what type of ruins there. There's people, they want to know that, right? I have Vampire Penetration. That way I can, get the Vampire effect so he can heal, he can recover his health back. He can maybe, like, cleave a whole, line and heal, 40 to 50% health. Maybe more, depending on how squishy some units are. So a lot of times it'll help him. when I'm facing those comps that are relying on, dropping 2 to 3 of their units and working with the remaining units at hand, right? So now Perna, I get it. People are going to be looking at this and be like, whoa, why are you using Blade Ruins? Because it's not exactly the Blade Ruin per se, but it's the substats that I'm getting from the Blade Ruins. Again, I was running Blade before, the new patch where we have these new Ancient Rune sets, right? But now, I have this factor in here that I'm able to get the Swift that I wanted, right? But before, I had him as a 6 cost and I was working him, but, he wasn't working for me because, I needed really good stats to be able to use him without the new patch with the new ruins. But now I can have all of that, over 67% accuracy. Ignore the crit rate, crit damage, all the other stuff. If anything, like a good Perna, if you really want to have a toxic Perna late game, again, this is not my build that I have right now, but I would say you want at least, 60 to 70% accuracy. Alright, and then you're going to want that crit damage received down 50%. You're going to distance at 50%, and you're going to want as much health and defense as you can possibly get. This is not an attack unit. You can, however, if you're trying to do a DPS-based team that you're dropping a lot of damage and you want to use something as bait, you can use Perna as a really tanky but, high attack unit. If you want to sacrifice all this stuff and just protect your DPS units, you can do that because he has a very high base attack stat, and that's for the sole purpose that Perna can be used as bait. Even more universal use. I know what the devs were thinking on this. Yeah, I like that. I've loved Perna since beta. I've loved him in the prior games, so on and so forth. Alright? So, Kamoon here. Alright? I have crit rate, I have crit damage. I'm really going to need those because, I'm sacrificing some damage output running his Goldstone, okay? So, he's got some defense, he's got some attack. I tell you, one of the most well-rounded bruisers for, like, stat-wise, again, I can't stress this enough, is Kamoon. He has good attack, he has good defense, he has good health, and, the sad thing is you got to level him a bit, But, when you get him there, when you get him to that plus 15, that's when he's going to have, like, mind you, the limit break aspect, plus 1 to plus 30. When you get him to plus 15 is when he's finally going to truly receive the quality in his use there, right? Again, I got him at 26.2% accuracy. Before I was running him on 15% back before we had these new runes. I love the new runes. He has energy and will. This is allowing him to have all that health, and he's also have the really good use of will runes that are going to help him dodge those initial debuffs, right? Because I have my full frontline able to have immunity. Rakan just won't have it against a legendary stone Megan, or if someone can quickly drop that debuff of Benablock, but ideally he can apply it himself and he can help himself on that. But what I would say, remember that 20-30% penetration, that crit damage received down, that resistance, that would still apply to these other bruiser units. And I'll tell you, Kamoon has a really good sustain. He's just not going to have as much sustain in the current seasons, as we do have a lot of attack power being launched from these newer units. Ruins, right? Ancient units are definitely adding some damage in, and mind you, that's where a lot of people are probably going to be popping these blessing runes, because evidently, sadly, they're going to have a lot of stat requirements. The blessing runes are going to give you a lot of crit damage reduction. If you can find a way to get stats to add in on top of that, to add even more crit damage reduction, it's going to be very hyper beneficial for you. Okay, now we get into Lucian here. Lucian has Fatal Swift. The Fatal is going to give me that bonus attack. The Swift is going to allow me to have that cost reduction, so that maybe I can turn cycle in such a way that pushes those buffs to get wasted, or people to waste that mana a little bit, so that then I can get that Lucian in before they have the applicable buff readily available. Or what I can do is, I can utilize that as a way to cycle just damage after damage, right? Because, Beretta into Thrain, I could do Rakan in there. I could, stack in, Thrain by himself. I could, drop in Perna if I want to. Just having that Swift in there for those high cost units, very beneficial. Okay, especially if you're running Goldstone Perna, you're gonna want that Swift in there just because it's gonna become from a 6 mana cost to now a 5 mana cost, so it's not as wasteful of mana for you. Same with Lucian, 6 mana to 5 mana, right? And the thing is, the Swift's allowing me to run at the the cost of the Greenstone Lucian, right? But without dropping my damage. And we'll get into like why I have Kernodon with Lucian here in a minute too. But back on these stats. So I have 40% crit rate and 200% crit damage. If you're not getting these insane rolls like some people are, they're getting all that crit damage, they're getting all that crit rate. Mind you, crit damage is gonna be a little more rare for you unless you got some lucky pulls. I mean, some people have it, some people don't, but I tell you, crit rate comes around a lot more often for a lot of us. So just keep that in mind. If you're worrying about which one's gonna roll more, typically crit rate comes around a lot more. But I tell you, this is not the prior game where it was really easy to come by crit rate with all 6 ruins. Like when this started, we only had 3 ruins and 40% was the bare minimum, and that's why we all prepared to have that 40%, and 50% at most, if not like 70% if it was a certain type of unit that really benefited off of crit. So that's where you find I only have 40% here, because the thing is, I have Lucian at over let's see here, 14.7k health. Alright, so 14,700 health. And the thing is, that's so that he can survive the one-shots from Jeans. The Jean Hua combo was always a real stressor for me, that I had to run certain units to protect Lucian. But now I can utilize Lucian in such a way that I don't have to protect him as much. And that helps me have more versatility between my units, so I can decide what units I want to use when I want to use them, and that can help you along in the long runs. And mind you, I have over 164 defense overall. There's going to be over let me see here, over 633 plus 700, so we're looking at about 1333 attack, right? And then I have a 15.8% crit damage received down. That's not really going to do too much, but it will allow me, maybe if someone have that on Illusion, I may be dealing more just because of the reductions. But again, that's not going to be as significant as if you were to aim for like 40 to 50%. That's when you start seeing significant damage drops, right? So again, Synergy and the Giant Warrior, those are going to go into Lucian. It's going to help him be able to vamp some health back when he does the Giant Warrior. If I have less units, it's going to, Synergy is going to allow me to heal over time. So, you can stack those together. They're both going to add in damage. And mind you, the damage conversion spell, what that's there for is to keep my front line alive. Because Rakan and Kamoon, if they reach your back line, they can pretty much solo a lot of back lines. Yeah, if I was struggling with like a Lapis or something, I'd probably finish her off with Thrain there. Alright, so Beretta. I'm running him on the purple stone. You're going to find, like, my stats increased a little bit here. I added some resistance on him, 46.8 resistance. Last you guys checked, I probably had around, like, 32 to 34% accuracy. Now I have about 36% accuracy. As you see, I got over 3.6k, 3,600 health there added on. Then I got that 214 bonus defense in there. Again, add a little bit of attack, just to make sure that Beretta was able to drop a little chip damage. It's not gonna be crazy. It's really not. It's not even worth it. But just something, because I'm trying to get that damage inflicted up a little bit, because it does count for me, having every little bit of damage. Because late game you're gonna want like all your units to have all their ruins maxed, right? just for all the benefits. Again, the reason why the defense and the health slots are not maxed is because I'm working on my Sierra sets right now. She's not really in this team, but it's gonna be for like my more late game team there. So I will be adding more levels to these later to give him a really good sustainability. But again, for a while I wasn't getting the stats of one. He had like 11 to 1200 bonus health, and it wasn't working out for me. But now he has a bit more health, and now I can actually have a benefit from leveling those more. Because I guarantee like 2,000 bonus health isn't going to do much for you. It's at least 3,000 and up before you even have any use out of it. And mind you, that was Swift and Will. That way, because he's in my front line, just because I don't have Chronodon on my front line, I want to have that first turn immunity. So if I'm running against another dot comp and they're doing that thing where they're trying to apply dots and I'm trying to apply dots, they're going to be the first one to really take the dot damage because I have that little benefit there, right? Now Chronodon, I'm running energy penetration. He's not the craziest on damage when it comes to like just single target damage with the build that I have here. I just have him for sustainability so he can just take away those buffs and add those dots in there for me. But I have over 42.6% accuracy and 61.4% resistance. This allows me to, let's say someone's trying to use Camilla and Chloe, I can use their own unit against them, the Camilla, if she's in the back line, and have her shred her entire front line for me. And that comes out very beneficial because Chronodon will turn any of your buffs into debuffs. Alright? It'll turn those all into dots. And since I have Legend Stone, any debuff that gets applied, mind you, there's a cooldown to this. It's a passive. So if it's passive, Tessarion can go and counter it potentially if it lands right. He may just apply the negative effect to himself because of the transfer. But then again, like I said, it's got a cooldown to it. They're going to land their debuffs, right? And it's going to get immediately transferred back. But then the next use of, like, let's say a debuff or whatever, is probably going to have that opening. Because, if they just go, like, Diaz into Beretta.